December 5, 1945. 5 United States Navy Avenger bombers lifted off from Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station in Florida. 14 men. Clear skies. A routine 2-hour training mission over the Bahamas. Nothing about that afternoon suggested anything unusual. But they never came back. The last radio transmission from their leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, was chilling. "We are entering white water. Nothing seems right. We don't know where we are. The water is green, no white." Then, silence. Complete, absolute silence. No mayday. No wreckage. No bodies. As if the ocean had simply reached up and taken them. A rescue aircraft was immediately dispatched. A PBM Mariner flying boat carrying 13 men took off to find them. It also vanished. No wreckage. No bodies. No distress signal. In a single afternoon, 27 men and 6 aircraft had disappeared without a trace. The U.S. Navy launched the largest peacetime search in its history, covering 250,000 square miles of ocean over 5 days. They found nothing. Not a life jacket. Not a fuel slick. Not a single piece of debris. It was as if the Atlantic Ocean had swallowed them whole and sealed itself shut behind them. This stretch of ocean between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico became known as the Bermuda Triangle. 500,000 square miles of deep Atlantic water, some of it over 27,000 feet deep. One of the most heavily traveled shipping and flight corridors on Earth, with thousands of vessels and aircraft crossing it every single year. And yet, for over a century, it has swallowed ships, aircraft, and people, leaving behind nothing but questions. No region of ocean has captured the human imagination quite like this one. But to understand why, you have to go back further than 1945. Much further. The mystery didn't begin in 1945. It began in 1918. The USS Cyclops, a 542-foot Navy collier carrying 309 men and 10,800 tons of manganese ore, departed Barbados on March 4, bound for Baltimore. The weather was fair. The route was well known. She was never seen again. No SOS signal was ever transmitted. No wreckage was ever found. No survivors. No explanation. President Woodrow Wilson himself said, "Only God and the sea know what happened to the great ship." To this day, it remains the single largest loss of life in U.S. Navy history outside of combat. 309 souls, erased. For decades, these disappearances were treated as tragic but isolated accidents. The ocean was dangerous. Ships sank. Planes went down. That was the reality of travel in the early 20th century. Then in 1950, journalist Edward Van Winkle Jones wrote a small newspaper article connecting several mysterious losses in this specific region of the Atlantic. 5 years later, writer George Sand drew the triangle on a map for the first time, connecting the dots between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. And in 1964, Vincent Gaddis published an article in Argosy magazine and gave it a name that would echo through history, the Bermuda Triangle. A legend was born. The USS Cyclops was not just any ship. She was one of the most powerful fuel supply vessels in the entire U.S. Navy, 19,000 tons fully loaded, capable of refueling an entire fleet at sea. But her captain, George Worley, was known to be deeply erratic. Crew members reported him pacing the deck in his underwear, carrying a cane and a bowler hat, making irrational decisions. The ship was dangerously overloaded beyond her rated capacity. Her starboard engine was broken and running at reduced power. And despite all of this, she sailed directly into the heart of the Atlantic, alone, without escort, without a working radio capable of long-range transmission. The Navy searched for months. Nothing. No oil slick. No life preservers. No bodies. The ocean gave back nothing. Then, 3 years later, two of the Cyclops' sister ships, the Proteus and the Nereus, also disappeared in the same waters. The same route. The same silence. 3 ships. Same class. Same waters. All gone without a trace. Investigators proposed theories: structural failure, enemy action, rogue waves. None could be confirmed. None could be ruled out. The Atlantic had taken 3 ships and over 500 men, and offered no explanation whatsoever. It was the beginning of a pattern that would haunt this ocean for the next 100 years. Back to December 5, 1945. Lieutenant Charles Taylor was no rookie. He had 2,500 flight hours, a highly experienced combat veteran who had flown missions in the Pacific. The assignment that afternoon was straightforward, a simple 2-hour triangular navigation exercise over the Bahamas, a route his squadron had flown many times before. But at 3:40 in the afternoon, Taylor radioed the control tower with words that would become infamous: "Both my compasses are out. I am over Broken Islands. I'm not sure of my position." He believed he was over the Florida Keys, south of the mainland. He was not. He was northeast of the Bahamas, heading further out to sea with every passing minute. For 2 agonizing hours, Taylor led his squadron in wide circles over the Atlantic, convinced he was heading toward Florida. He was heading east, out to sea, away from land, away from safety. The other pilots trusted him. They followed. At 5:50 p.m., his final transmission was barely audible through the static: "All planes close up tight. We'll have to ditch unless landfall. When the first plane drops below 10 gallons, we all go down together." After that, nothing. No explosion. No emergency beacon. No wreckage. 5 aircraft and 14 men simply ceased to exist somewhere over the dark Atlantic. At 7:27 p.m., a PBM Mariner flying boat took off from Banana River Naval Air Station with 13 men aboard. 23 minutes later, a merchant ship in the area reported seeing a massive explosion in the sky, a sudden flash of fire, then darkness. The Mariner was gone. No distress call. No wreckage recovered. The Navy's official investigation, after months of review, concluded with 4 words that satisfied no one: cause unknown. It was the most unsatisfying answer in military history. 40 men dead. 6 aircraft lost. And the United States Navy had no explanation to give their families. Flight 19 was not the first. In 1872, the brigantine Mary Celeste was found drifting in the Atlantic, sails perfectly set, cargo completely intact, food still on the table, a half-eaten meal in the captain's cabin. The crew of 10 had vanished. No signs of struggle. No blood. No damage to the hull. The ship was in perfect sailing condition. The last log entry was dated November 25. She was found on December 4, 10 days. 10 people. Gone. No lifeboat was missing. No explanation has ever been accepted. The Mary Celeste remains the most famous ghost ship in history. The list of disappearances goes on and on. 1948, Star Tiger, a British passenger aircraft with 31 people aboard, vanished without a trace on a flight from the Azores to Bermuda. 1949, Star Ariel, the same airline, the same route, the same fate, 28 people gone. 1963, Marine Sulphur Queen, a tanker carrying 39 men, disappeared, leaving behind only a single life jacket and a name board floating on the surface. Over 1,000 lives lost in this triangle of ocean across the 20th century alone. Each case more baffling than the last. each investigation ending with the same conclusion: unknown. By the 1970s, the Bermuda Triangle was front-page news worldwide. In 1974, Charles Berlitz published his best-selling book simply titled The Bermuda Triangle. It sold over 20 million copies in 30 languages and became one of the best-selling non-fiction books of the decade. Headlines screamed across every newspaper: the Sea of Doom, the Devil's Triangle, where ships and planes go to die. Television documentaries, radio programs, Hollywood films. The world was completely captivated. And the theories, some grounded in science, some reaching far beyond it, began to multiply faster than anyone could count. What Berlitz didn't mention was that Lloyd's of London, the world's most respected and experienced maritime insurer, with centuries of data on ocean losses, did not charge higher premiums for ships crossing the Bermuda Triangle. If the region were genuinely more dangerous, Lloyd's would have known. The US Coast Guard stated officially and on the record, the number of disappearances in the Triangle is not significantly higher than any other heavily traveled ocean region in the world. So why did the legend grow so powerful? Because the human mind craves mystery. And the ocean is very good at keeping secrets. The most sensational theory: extraterrestrial abduction. Proponents claimed UFOs were repeatedly sighted in the area immediately before disappearances. That the aircraft and ships were taken by alien craft for scientific study. That the ocean floor hides an underwater alien base, still active today. No physical evidence has ever supported any part of this theory. Not a single verified UFO sighting. Not a single piece of recovered alien technology. But it sold millions of books, spawned dozens of Hollywood films, and kept the legend burning for generations. Sometimes the most extraordinary explanation is the most irresistible, even when the evidence points elsewhere. In 1968, recreational divers discovered the Bimini Road, a formation of large, flat, rectangular limestone stones arranged in a remarkably straight line on the ocean floor near the Bahamas, in just 18 feet of water. Some researchers immediately claimed it was a paved road built by the lost civilization of Atlantis. That ancient energy crystals buried beneath the ocean floor were actively disrupting the navigation systems of modern ships and aircraft. Marine geologists from multiple universities independently examined the stones and identified them as natural beach rock formation, a process called beach rock cementation. But the Atlantis theory refused to die. It never does. One of the few places on Earth where true north and magnetic north align is the Bermuda Triangle. This means compass readings in this region can be unreliable without correction, and pilots or navigators who don't account for this can find themselves heading in entirely the wrong direction without realizing it. In 1945, Lieutenant Taylor reported that both his compasses had failed simultaneously. Navigation errors in this region are well documented across decades of incident reports. Before GPS, before satellite navigation, a confused compass in deteriorating weather over open ocean was not just a problem, it was a death sentence. The ocean floor beneath the Bermuda Triangle contains some of the largest deposits of methane hydrates on Earth. These are ice-like structures that trap enormous quantities of methane gas under high pressure and low temperature. When the seafloor shifts or temperatures rise, these deposits can destabilize catastrophically, releasing massive columns of gas that rise to the surface. Scientists have proven in laboratory conditions that a large enough methane eruption can reduce water density so dramatically that a ship would lose buoyancy and sink in seconds, with no warning, no time to send a distress signal, and leaving no wreckage on the surface for searchers to find. It is a terrifying and entirely natural mechanism. For centuries, sailors reported waves over 100 feet tall appearing without any warning from perfectly calm seas. Scientists dismissed these accounts as exaggeration or hallucination, until 1995, when a 100-foot rogue wave struck the Draupne oil platform off the coast of Norway and was recorded by instruments for the first time in history. Suddenly, the sailors were vindicated. The Bermuda Triangle sits at the precise convergence of three powerful water systems: the Gulf Stream, the open Atlantic, and the Caribbean Sea. This convergence creates ideal conditions for rogue waves, walls of water that appear in seconds, strike without warning, and leave no survivors to report what happened. In 2016, a team of meteorologists from the University of Southampton made a startling claim. Satellite imagery showed hexagonal cloud formations over the Bermuda Triangle, clouds that create powerful air bombs, blasts of wind reaching 170 miles per hour that can capsize ships and bring down aircraft in seconds. The claim generated enormous media coverage worldwide. But the most consistent finding across every serious investigation, every government inquiry, and every independent analysis is simpler and far more uncomfortable: human error. Overconfidence in familiar waters. Poor navigation decisions. Weather warnings ignored. Mechanical problems left unaddressed. The ocean does not need to be supernatural to be deadly. In 2013, the Worldwide Fund for Nature conducted the most comprehensive analysis of global shipping data ever assembled and identified the world's most dangerous stretches of ocean. The Bermuda Triangle was not on the list. The most dangerous waters were the South China Sea, the North Sea, and the Mediterranean. Researcher Larry Kush spent years methodically cross-checking every single Bermuda Triangle case against original records, naval logs, weather reports, newspaper archives, insurance filings. His conclusion was devastating. Here, many of the disappearances happened outside the triangle entirely, in different weather conditions than reported, or in some cases simply never occurred at all. The legend had been built, in part, on fiction. Today, most oceanographers, meteorologists, and aviation experts agree on the same conclusion: the Bermuda Triangle is a dangerous stretch of ocean, but no more dangerous than any other heavily traveled region of open sea. The disappearances are real. The tragedies are real. But the explanations are largely mundane: sudden violent storms, compass anomalies, methane eruptions, rogue waves, and the simple, brutal fact that the Atlantic Ocean is vast, deep, and completely unforgiving of mistakes. Wreckage sinks fast in these waters. The Gulf Stream, one of the most powerful ocean currents on Earth, can move debris hundreds of miles within hours, erasing all evidence before any search team can reach the scene. In 1991, 5 Avenger aircraft were found on the ocean floor off Fort Lauderdale, but serial numbers confirmed they were not Flight 19. In 2017, a documentary expedition team found wreckage matching Flight 19's description in 600 feet of water northeast of Fort Lauderdale. The US Navy has never officially confirmed the identification. The most likely explanation, accepted by most aviation historians today, is straightforward: Lieutenant Taylor's compasses failed. Disoriented, he turned east instead of west. He flew his entire squadron further and further out to sea. They ran out of fuel over open ocean in the dark. 14 men died because of a compass malfunction and a single wrong turn. Not a mystery. A tragedy. The Bermuda Triangle is not a supernatural force. It is not a portal to another dimension. It is not an alien base hidden beneath the waves. It is something far more powerful and far more honest than any of those things. It is the ocean. Vast. Ancient. Indifferent. Capable of swallowing everything we build and everyone we love, without leaving a single trace, without offering a single explanation. The real mystery of the Bermuda Triangle is not what took the ships and the planes. Science has answers for most of them. The real mystery is why we so desperately need it to be something more than the sea. Why we need the darkness to have a name.